Welcome back to Touring the Multiverse. I'm Miaca, and with me today is Kasi. And we've been looking into one of the Magic the Gathering settings that 5th edition has adopted, Theros. Welcome back to Touring the Multiverse.
In this episode of our discussion on Theros, we're going to look at three gods who wield raw, destructive forces at a whim. And of course, we'll be covering three additional monsters.
All right, we're gonna dive right into Thassa, the god of the sea. I'm so proud of myself for saying that just now.
Thassa!
So to me, she's probably one of my most scary gods. Or one of the most scary gods in Theros. So Thassa is the god of the sea. She knows for a fact that no one, gods or mortals, can threaten her status. She has Titan-like features, and her hair is like octopus tentacles, and she has a crown of crab legs on her head. She takes the form of like a giant squid, an ocean storm, or a school of sharks. And so Thassa, this is who she is in the
Oh
book. I'm
my
just showing
God.
Kasi for those listening. Yeah.
That is phenomenal and intimidating, just a bit.
Yeah, and if I'm correct, I think she was one of the last gods she was the last god that I read about before I kept going, and I can see why. I'm going to get into that. A little cute tidbit about her, her favorite animal is a crab, which I find interesting. Like out of all the out of all the creatures and stuff, she's like, I have a thing for crabs. I like crabs. Um Thassa is the sea, and the sea is Thassa. Something that the book kept talking about as I was reading about her, like where you see a body of water, she is in control of it, except for the Tardix River in the underworld. She holds no domain over that river. Thassa holds control of Kraken and other ocean creatures. These are her babies. They say if you see a Kraken, she is pissed. You should probably start running. Trying to get away as like far as you can from the Kraken in the sea. She believes change is needed, hard stop. She's constantly changing shorelines and trade routes. Another interesting thing about her, she is always focused on the future, always. So how she can just constantly change things with water. Sailors, fishermen, they pay their respect to her, and her center of worship is Melitis, that a huge city. Getting into her relationships, Thassa disagrees with the gods, and she doesn't fear them. Heliod is Thassa's favorite sibling, but she doesn't really care for him. And Heliod is the god of the sun, and he's like that arrogant Zeus-like god. When Krufix had jumbled Purphoros' mind, it was Thassa who took pity on Purphoros, and since then he just makes her gifts and stuff. Like I think that's kind of cute. She thinks that he can be a bit excessive in his ambitions, but she just keeps him around because, like, why not? With with everyone else, she sort of shrugs them off. She believes this, and this is why I believe like she's low-key, like the destructive god. To her, she compares her peers' works to sandcastles. She can just sweep them all away whenever she feels like it. So if you think of like Afara and her cities and stuff like that, she's like, at any point in time, I can create a wave that will just wipe out all of Theros and just get rid of everyone. And the whole world will just be underwater. But I just won't do that today. And so she holds that power, which is terrifying.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yep. Champions are usually neutral. Some suggested classes are the cleric, fighter, rogue, and wizard. Champions are in favor of change, new ideas. They don't adhere to the status quo, and they just have like overall respect for Thassa.
There
Um,
has to be like water genasi.
I know. I'm like they. I'm like they keep, giving us like the basic classes, but it's like what you just said. Like water
There's got to be
genasi.
more.
So, a way to earn piety is supporting those who would overturn institutions, preventing cataclysmic change, offering a treasure to the sea, or defending or maintaining a temple of Thassa. You can lose piety by trying to keep a secret from Thassa, using magic to calm the sea's fury. Yeah, that would piss her off. Upholding an institution not devoted to Thassa, and bowing to desires and demands of another god. So that's the way you can lose piety. As a DM, if you were trying to create a villain, an NPC that was a Thassa follower, your players may encounter a villain that is obsessed with the secrets of the sea, or those who are just overprotective of Thassa. And since Thassa is all about change, there's so much you can do with that, I think. Like you can have this character lead your party in the absolute wrong direction. Thassa as a campaign villain, she may take something as a threat, especially from a god. Her resistance to change can be a problem. She may even push for a display of her own power, which goes back into the whole like I can destroy everything you love.
Yeah.
And I will destroy you in the process. And so we're gonna roll on the scheme table. Roll a d4, and I'm gonna read off one of her schemes that you could use if
All
you
right.
want her as a campaign villain.
1.
All right. So it says, this is like the longest one. After a kraken is sighted near an inhabited island, a fleet prepares to set sail for Melites to face it. In retribution, Thassa pulls the ocean back from the entire coastline, stranding not only the fleet, but the fishing boats and merchant vessels that keep the polis fed and supplied. Thassa's oracles announce that the forest of mass must be felled before the waters will return. But Melites refuses to give up its navy. How can Thassa be appeased? That's pretty political.
Yeah.
An adventure under Thassa is the coastal temple. These are often located in coastal areas. Chambers are underwater during the high tide, and worshippers can even succumb to the tides as well. And let's discuss an adventure. Casey, can you roll a d12?
I can. Let's see. We got a 5.
All right. Kill or drive off a hydra that has claimed the temple as its home. So that's a adventure you could come across if you decide to play it. And I don't know if you have your book there, Casey, but this is what the temple looks like. So a lot of water. It's influenced by the high tide, like when high tide rolls in and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yeah. It's like you can die here, and like even if you're a follower of Thassa, like no one really cares. It's like if you were meant to die here, that's how it's supposed to be. So yeah.
I have like a acute respect for the tides after like I guess it was 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Yes. Some years ago, I hiked the West Coast Trail in British Columbia. Google it. It's really cool if you don't know. And a lot of your hiking was right on the coast, and you needed to understand the tides and be very aware of the timing of the tides, otherwise your route could be cut off, or you
Yeah.
be stuck somewhere between like rocks
Oh
and
my God.
large cliffs.
mm.
And so like I will forever have respect for the tides because they do not give a fuck what you're trying to do. You are at
Nope.
their mercy. So same with this, like I can only imagine the fuckery you could do with, suddenly making time really important in a session that you have with your players and watching the time and then moving that tide behind the scenes for the players. And it's like, you guys are going to lose your exit.
Yeah. Oh,
If
that's
you
such a
don't
good
hurry up.
idea.
Yeah. And it depends on how perceptive some players are, whether they will notice that's happening behind them or throughout their like navigation.
Mm,
And then if they get stuck, it could be potentially like one of the like rolling a lot while you're trying to swim underwater and hold your breath, or
yep.
people have to hopefully not have expended spell slots so that they can use some spells to give people some abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But once you have water involved, and especially if you're trying to stay out of it, but it's out of your hands, oh,
Mm-hmm. Like,
it could be
good luck.
bad. Yeah. That's my rant on you just talking about chambers underwater and high tide. I was like, oh fuck no.
Yeah. Like being in this temple would just be so terrifying, especially because you never know what she's up to and what she feels like doing. And I guess that could be said for all of the gods, but I feel like with Thassa, like she holds like a power to literally destroy like all of mankind in Theros if she gets that angry. Like we said that the gods aren't all powerful, but she has a pretty powerful tool and she
Yeah.
knows that she can use it.
And endless volume of
Mm,
water
yeah.
at her disposal.
Mm-hmm.
I
Like
also think
wild.
she is one god where you truly won't actually see her. You
Mm-hmm.
will, like, because she, feels like the water is her,
Yeah.
it would have to be something pretty epic for your party to actually witness her and encounter her. It will
Mm-hmm.
be just her wrath that you would experience, which would also be terrible.
Yep.
But yeah, it's one of those ones where the vast amount of power would probably result in her not actually being seen. It's just her capabilities impacting you
Yep.
and influencing you.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Well, that is Miss Thassa
Oh
and what she
boy.
has to offer.
I like it. Everyone we learn about usually is like, oh yeah, this is now my favorite. And then the next one, except for Heliode.
Yeah, you were not having any of him. He was like too much.
All right, well, let's move into our first monster of the episode. So this also happens to be the third and final mythic monster. So this is from Hythonia, a large-sized Medusa, to Arasta, a huge-sized arachnid. Now we're on to Tromokratis, a gargantuan-sized kraken. So
All
this
right.
kraken, yep, we're in the waters, will terrorize coastal settlements, choosing no lair. It claims the entire sea as its territory. Kind of sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
It wanders at its own will and hunger, and if not acting at the command of Thassa, god of the sea, it's just going about its business with no limits. Sailors claim rough waters are due to Tromokratis battling another kraken who dares attempt to claim his sea, so much so that they will blow conch shell horns in hopes it will calm the nearby krakens. There is a legend, in fact, of a magical horn, the horn of Humanities, and he used the horn to summon Tromokratis to destroy a cursed city. However, after the city was laid to waste by this kraken, Humanities decided that the horn was perhaps too powerful to be able to do that. So he buried it under a stone near the palace of Erebos in Tisaris. So, like, to me, that also just screams, okay, well, an adventuring party is going to be tasked with going to find this horn that's
Yeah.
buried.
Yep.
But okay, so I know I do spend probably too much time on these mythic creatures in our episodes, but they're so damn cool, so I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, go for it.
It's the third one.
Yeah.
So Tromokratis is a titan a CR of 26, and has an AC of 22 and just over 400 hit points.
Ooh.
This is also a theme. We are always going around like 200, 400, and it is not just a random encounter. This is a significant battle if you're going in with this.
This is gonna be a core memory.
Yes.
Core memory.
Absolute core memory. So this Kraken has a 30-foot walking speed plus a 80-foot swim speed. I really can't fathom actually entering combat with this. It has like resistance to cold, lightning, and thunder damage, immunity to fire damage, immunity to damage from non-magical attacks, and immunity to being charmed, frightened, paralyzed, and restrained. It has blind sight of 120 feet. Its attacks are magical. It's a siege monster, meaning it does double damage to objects and structures. It has 3 legendary resistances per day, and it even has a spell resistance carapace, which means spell attacks against it have disadvantage. So it's like it has this like hard protection shell against spells. So really, it's no surprise it is known as the destroyer of coastal settlements. As an action, it can make 3 attacks, in which all have a 20-foot reach, and they're all different. One is with its pincer, that also has grappling capability, one with its tail that can knock the target prone, and finally, one with a tentacle grasp that grapples the target as well. Only this one if the target doesn't escape by the end of its turn, which is unlikely with a DC of 26. The Tromokratis throws the target up to 60 feet where it lands prone and takes 66 bludgeoning damage.
Oof. Okay.
That's all in one action.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. So all in all, it can deal well over 80 points of damage in one action. It can also choose to bite as an action, which only does have a 5-foot reach but deals 3d12 plus 10 piercing damage on a hit. But if the target is large or smaller in size, this is why I also had to mention this attack. If the target is large or smaller in size and it's already been grappled by either the pincer or the tentacle, the Kraken can then swallow the target. And while swallowed, it is no longer grappled, but is now blinded and restrained. And it's protected from the outside world from that damage. But it takes 12d6 acid damage at the start of each of its turns because it's basically getting digested.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Not 12d6?
Yeah.
Stop. Oh my gosh. So you're just dead.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to fix that problem real quick.
Yeah. Wow.
Your maybe one saving grace is that if the Tromokratis takes 50 damage, 50, on a single turn from a creature inside it, so say because you just find a way to deal massive damage from its belly, it will make a DC 20 con save. And if it fails, it will throw the creature up. So it's kind of like you just turned its stomach so bad that it's like trying to like stop from throwing up, and so it has to do a con save, and if it fails, it throws you up.
Oh my gosh.
I also thought you would like this too, Miaca. So if the other party members do their part and actually kill the Tromokratis, the creature can then escape from the corpse by using 15 feet of movement. So, that's all it says. So you basically just walk out of it.
I would be I could not. I could not imagine walking out of this thing. Oh my gosh.
You would just remain in the stomach and message someone and be like, can someone come just get me?
Yeah. Somebody please come get me, because I can't do this by myself. I just can't.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
Oh, I hate that. No, thank you. Mm-mm.
So, yes, it's no surprise that on top of all that, it does have legendary actions, as we've seen with the other mythic monsters. But now let's move into the mythic trait. So,
Mm.
should you somehow manage to drop this monstrosity to 0 hit points, it will use its Heart of the Kraken. So, this recharges after a short or long rest and allows it to not die or fall unconscious, but instead its carapace cracks open, revealing 4 hearts, 2 on its chest, 1 on its back, and 1 at the base of its tail. Each heart has its own AC of 22 and 100 hit points. Here we go,
Oh,
totaling 400 hit points.
yeah.
So, yep, we are back to full hit points again, and you are fighting the Kraken all over again. You are just targeting these 4 hearts.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and these hearts are immune to all conditions and all non-magical attacks, though all abilities they have are +0 modifier for saving throws. So it doesn't get any advantages on that piece, but it's still it's immune to all, like, yeah, you can't charm a heart. You can't frighten
Right,
a
you're right.
and if the Kraken can have a short or long rest, any damaged hearts regenerate and the carapace heals and covers them again. So the only way to destroy the Tromokratis is to destroy all the hearts. It means basically like you can't do all this damage, reveal the hearts, and then like run away and try and like recoup and then go back, because it will get a
Mm.
short rest and just cover the hearts and be at full hit points, and you'll have to do that all over again.
Oh my gosh, it's a lot of
You
work.
Yeah, so you really have to just expect to destroy, like get rid of those 400 hit points, have the carapace crack open, and then be able to destroy all 4 hearts, which is another 400 hit points, and then
Mm.
truly you will kill it.
Okay. Okay.
While using the mythic trait of Heart of the Kraken, it will also gain the ability to rampage using legendary actions, where it can then make like a tail attack plus a tentacle grasp attack, because it's going to just continue trying to like grapple you and eat you as well.
Yeah, it's still gonna be fighting you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then it gets this kind of cool feature. Each one of these mythic monsters seems to have some sort of area of effect ability once they've like triggered this mythic trait. So
Hmm.
for the Kraken, it has coral growth, where what I imagine is part of its carapace that has broken open just bursts a bunch of like sharp coral pieces,
Oh my
and
God.
it gains them a +2 to AC. And so that brings it to an AC of 24.
Oh my gosh.
And then any
Ugh.
creature within 10 feet of it, when these sharp like coral pieces like burst out, must make a dex save of DC 25, or they
Mm.
take 3d8 slashing damage and half on a success. So they're basically like slashed up by this coral growth that's happening.
Yeah.
And then it's even harder to hit because it's now an AC of 24. So I don't know what I could have left out in that, because it is just of
It's so
epic
much.
proportions. There's so much cool shit. Like, I cannot imagine fighting it, but it's
Mm.
such a cool monster.
It
Oh my
is.
gosh.
Like all the terrifying stuff aside, it it is like that's a journey you're about to go on. Like
Yeah.
especially with the hearts. It's the hearts for me that just open up and like now you have to go after these hearts to try to like seriously kill it. Like
Yeah.
that's wild to me.
Yeah, and like the hearts have regeneration ability. Like, it's just relentless.
Yeah.
And I should mention as well, like the art in the book, if you want to have a look, Miaca, it's on page 255.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it just again, this is a gargantuan monstrosity. This would flick its tail and destroy a giant ship. Like it
Yeah.
would cause a tidal wave to come up onto the shore, and that would be
Mhm.
enough to destroy half a city, you know?
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's just a pile of hard shell and vicious looking teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
This,
so cool.
yeah, this is one of Thassa's babies.
Yeah. And she's just like, oh, there's my baby.
Yeah. He is a very scary boy. It is the fact that I would have to just walking out of it if it dies is like I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that by myself.
You were done at that point.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And like even further, like if you want to, you know, show any sort of threats or omens about the sea because of Thassa,
Mm-hmm.
like this is just another layer to that. It's like don't disturb the sea or like the kraken might come, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
just any kraken. You know, like
Right. Right.
it could just be a rumor or a story you hear about from the coastal cities.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe in your campaign, maybe you'll come across a destroyed city. And when you finally find out why that city basically got wiped off of the island or the mainland, it was
Mm-hmm.
because of this creature. It was because of Tromokratis, you
Yep.
know? Yeah, I like
Whew.
it.
I like it. Terrifying, but I like it. They did a good job with these like huge monsters in this book.
I agree. It was a pleasure walking through the stories, and they all had very like different traits and
Mm-hmm.
really good lore and unique abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are going to now move on to Purphoros. We're gonna get out the water.
Get out of the water now. We're
Yeah.
done.
We're gonna get out the water now. We're gonna learn about Purphoros, the god of the forge. So Purphoros is the god of the forge, restless earth and fire. He is known for absent-mindedly making powerful crafted items only to just destroy them and then begin again. He is very, very, very impulsive. He's an impulsive gentleman. He can be happy creating something and then easily become frustrated or angry. So he's an emotional boy. He prefers the form of a muscular man with colored skin. He also takes on the form of a phoenix or a bull made of cooling lava. If mortals see him in one of these forms, they don't live to really talk about it. Like if you see him in any other form than this form, he's not happy and he will probably kill you. Can you see that?
Oh man. And even in that form, I'm not confident.
Yeah, he's pretty scary. So he shows mortals how to harness their energy and push it through their own passion or labor. He has influence over all forms of creation and he oversees the advancement in the world, like modern advancement tools and stuff like that. He also, I don't think I have it here, but he also showed mortals. Let me see. This is actually important. Give me 1 second. Oh yeah, it was his followers who first brought bronze to Theros, and so it's kind of like a new metal for them, and so he's directly like responsible. Him and his followers are responsible for that, which is pretty cool. He is in his happy place if he is able to uproot cities and reroute rivers and stuff like that. So if he knew he wasn't stepping on any toes, he would just constantly like just tear apart cities, like tear apart mortals' homes and try to like redesign it to fit what he thinks is best, which is he's doing too much.
Stop meddling.
Exactly, exactly. Get into his relationships. Helio despises him, and I think it's just because he's jealous, because he has like this huge power to create. Purphoros sees Heliod as restrictive on the world and on creation itself. As I said before, he loves Thassa. Something that's pretty cool. You can find a lot of what he creates for her in her palace. So if you're a DM and you want to take your party to Thassa's palace or something like that, you could just probably have these huge like tools just laying around and like expensive looking stuff. He loves to make things for her. Krufix and Purphoros don't really get along since he had scrambled his brain after this battle with Heliod. And it took him years to recover from that. So Purphoros is pretty like upset at Krufix for that. And when it comes to Afara and Karametra, they have nothing in common. If Purphoros could, he would constantly interfere with their work to make room for his new creation of how things should be. I kind of see him as, I don't want to call him dumb, but I just see him, that character that's just like, he's big, muscly guy, and he's just like, but kind of is a teddy bear a little bit, clumsy, that type of character.
Yeah, and like if he is crafting or trying to create, there will be a much larger mountain of scrap of like
Mhm.
the things that he didn't like and just like tossed, and
Yeah.
then a very small amount of things that he actually finished and actually liked. So it's like
Mhm.
you could bear witness to just the chaos of his work area.
Yeah, just so chaotic. Like what if he doesn't like something, you just see like this big huge thing just fly over a mountain.
Right? Yeah, that's what I imagine. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
that's just another one of his like rejected creations.
Yeah. So it looks fine to me, but like geez. So getting into his champions are usually chaotic, of course, often neutral. You could play as a barbarian, a bard, cleric, fighter, or sorcerer. Barbarian, so fitting.
Yeah.
Um, champions are passionate and creative. They want to change the world and tend to want to make changes at a moment's notice. So they are just like all over the place. You can earn piety by fighting those who would rule over others, taking action on impulse, destroying something that has outlived its usefulness, creating something wonderful in Purphoros' name. You can lose piety by following an unjust law, creating something flawed, and backing down from a fight.
I see.
Yeah. You can encounter a Purphoros villain. They're pretty easy to come by. You can encounter an NPC who is quite passionate to the point where it kind of ends in tragedy, or you can take on rivals due to craftsmanship. Something that's interesting here is that he's very hands off with his champions and like his followers until he wants to like give them something or push them to do something. He's usually very hands off. Purphoros as a villain, as a campaign villain, he is driven by impulse, of course. He may gather his champions. He may gather his champions to spread lies about other gods. And when gods retaliate against him, he may destroy their temples throughout Theros. He's like a baby.
Yeah. A
Like,
big like temper tantrum child.
yes. It's like I'm just gonna destroy your temples. Take that. So we're gonna roll on the villain scheme table. So
All
go
right.
ahead and roll a d4.
D4. We got a 2.
All right, so if you want Purphoros to be your campaign villain, here's a little scheme that could be going on in the background. So insulted that the other gods don't appreciate his creations, Purphoros breaks the Nyx-infused chains that bind the ancient red dragon Thraxis, allowing it to go on a far-ranging rampage. Like, Jesus.
Ooh.
So
That's a long game problem.
yeah. That is like, yeah, long game problem. And he is responsible for it. So that's something he could do.
I can just imagine like if Adam was running a campaign and had somebody roll and they rolled that. I
Mhm.
can see him just like, reading to himself in the book and then just going, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah,
And then his brain is just now figuring out how the fuck am I gonna put that into this campaign?
exactly. Like, how the hell am I gonna like fix this? It's just flying all over Theros, just causing chaos everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. An adventure you can play under him is called the Volcano Temple. These are temples that burrow into volcanoes. Armor, jewelry, and weapons and art are made here. Priests are known to carve intricate designs into the stone walls, knowing that one day the volcano will erupt. But it doesn't really bother them because they can just always start again, which is like Purphoros' thing. So it makes sense for his followers to be that way. Acquiring treasure is what makes this adventure worth playing. Monsters can be found in dark places, and there are valuables all over, as well as random, like small eruptions within the
Ooh.
temple. And so the way I kind of envisioned it is like you get to the top of the volcano, and there's some way down like the inside side of it where you can go into like the actual volcano temple, which is just crazy. And so here is a map of it.
Oh, yep.
Yep.
Gotta deal with some lava.
Oh yeah. And so we are going to roll on the adventure table. So roll a d10 and let's see what you can do here.
Okay. I got 4.
Become an apprentice to one of the priests and craft an item in the temple. So that's something you can do. Here's, I'm just going to read this one because it caught my eye. Number 7 says, the volcano is erupting. Prevent it or save the most fanatical priests who refuse to leave their forges. Oh, God. So like, you have a bunch of priests that are like, no, I cannot leave. I must create more. And it's like you're responsible for either saying, okay, they don't want to leave, so maybe we can try to figure out how to prevent this volcano from erupting, or you try to get the priests to leave. I would try to convince them, look, we gotta go. Like
in our current campaign, I would say, Miaca, your character would be like, do we really need to spend this
yeah.
trying to save these? They obviously want to stay. Let them just go down.
Exactly. Like we just came here just to like look around and stuff. Do we really want to get involved? Especially if there's like no one. I'm like the worst. Especially if there's no one in our party who is a follower or champion of Purphoros. Like,
Yeah.
do we really want to stay here and help?
Yeah. And it would be Dan's character that would start like picking them up and like throwing them over his shoulder. It's like, how many can I pick up? We gotta go.
I see Dan the way he plays Orbo. I feel like Orbo would be a Purphoros champion. Like I can see him fitting into that.
Yes, yeah. He would just embrace the chaos and be like, "Oh, it's erupting now. We gotta go. Okay, everybody, we gotta go. Let's
Yeah,
get out of
yeah.
here."
Oh yeah, that aspect of it.
Inspire and rally the troops as the bard.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that is Purphoros.
I think I like the aspect that they throw in, there's a lot of loot because that will draw a lot of people. Heck, this might be the only, like, this is a reason you want to, like, I want to go shopping and I want to go shopping at an exclusive place that not many people like go to. And then somebody suggests, like, oh, yeah, I know a temple. It's just like up that mountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you realize if you actually make it there that there is indeed beautiful jewelry and armor and art, but you're in a fucking volcano.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be things go wrong.
Yo, so many things. Like death. Like a lot of these places. But I'd rather not burn to death by lava if I could help it. Like that's terrifying.
Love a good lava or good volcano and lava flow, though. The risk
Yeah.
is real. All right, well, let's dive into Anvilwroughts.
All right.
What are Anvilwroughts? These are metal creatures first created by Purphoros, the god of the forge. Designed from the beauty he saw in nature, they can serve many purposes, from guardian to familiar to messenger. The most valuable and rare Anvilwroughts were created by Purphoros himself, of course, said to now be heirlooms of monarchs, lost treasure, and even guarded by ancient monsters. So these are constructs, and they are all unaligned, and they all have dark vision of 120 feet. Not surprisingly, they're all immune to fire and poison. And they are also immune to being charmed, exhausted, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned conditions. They can also understand one language from their master, but they themselves cannot speak. So there's a few different types that I'm going to run through now. There's the first, which is called the raptor. So sorry, Adam, it is not the dinosaur raptor. Think more like a hawk or owl, and it's tiny in size. So the Anvilwrought raptor has a variant to become a familiar, and in that it has a telepathic bond and can act as a spy or a messenger for their master. And this bond allows the master to sense what the Anvilwrought senses while within 1 mile of each other. So that's kind of fun and a unique spin on a familiar. Stats wise, though, these are a CR of 1/2. They really don't have super high ability scores, but they are skilled in perception, and they have a fly speed of 60 feet, and they can mimic any sound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So next up is the bronze sable. This was offered as a gift to Keranos from Purphoros. They look like the sable animal we know, which is something like a marten or like a little kind of like furry creature, except these are actually medium in size. So they were initially created to be guardians, but they can also be used as scouts. They are a CR of 1, and they are skilled in stealth. They are also indistinguishable from a normal statue while they are motionless. So it's like a unique ability. It could just be a, art piece, or it could be like a bronze art piece, or it could be a sable. They also have pack tactics and can deal an extra 2d6 damage if a target is surprised by its attack. And so for this reason, and the fact that they were guardians or scouts, I feel like they will always come in multiples. Like there will always be either a pair or maybe a pack of 6 or something. But for this one, I don't know. I just feel like they were gifted as a pair or more. So next we have the Burnished Heart, said to be one of the first Anvilwroughts ever made by Purphoros. These wander far and wide to witness all the world's beauty, returning to Mount Venus and home of Purphoros' forge to share what they've seen. Now there's no imagery in the book, but if you look online, you can find some, and they look like it's basically from Magic the Gathering is where I found the art, and they kind of look like a golden gazelle, and just their antlers or their horns have like a lot of spikes to them. They're very majestic, and yeah, they're very cool.
Okay.
So with these creatures, we bump up to a CR of 2, and their ability is they can charge a target and hit with their antlers, and they actually deal fire damage and are able to knock it prone. This is a medium-sized construct that deals fire damage if hit with a melee attack, and it uses its antlers, and is also sure-footed, so it is also hard to knock it prone, and it is good at knocking others prone. So it can make 2 attacks, which I think is why it is a boost to a CR of 2 versus the other ones, and then has that fire damage ability. So fourth and finally, we get to the gold forged sentinel. No one really knows why Purphoros created them. They are incredibly majestic, but hard to control. They will not take a master. and they are actually usually seen standing perfectly still like statues for an indefinite amount of time.
Mm.
So what are these? These gold forged sentinels, they look like a ram with like large curled horns. They are
Mm-hmm.
large in size, and oh, they also have metal wings. So
Oh
they're
wow.
a winged ram.
Mm-hmm.
So here we jump to a CR of 5, and they have a speed of 40 feet and a fly speed of 60 feet. And these are skilled in perception. So these can also make a charge attack and ram with their horns. And they can make 2 ram attacks to do damage, and a good amount of damage with the ram attacks, but they have a fire breath, which is like bizarre. But it can basically exhale a 15-foot cone of fire, and that will cause each creature in that area to make a dex save and take 68 fire damage on a fail, half on the success. I do think like a CR of 5 is a bit of a jump. So there's one final ability that I feel like justifies that, and it's called spell turning. The sentinel has advantage on saving throws against any spell that targets only the sentinel, so not necessarily like area of effect spells.
Mm-hmm.
But if the sentinel's saving throw on that spell succeeds and the spell is of 4th level or lower, the spell has no effect on the sentinel and actually is like flipped back and hits the caster.
Ooh.
So you can potentially like be targeted by your own spell.
Wow. Yeah, that's that's a lot.
Yeah, that one was worth noting. And so that's why I think there's that jump to CR5
Yeah.
with that construct. Yeah, so many different creations, and I kind of feel like you could build off of these to create
Oh
what
yeah.
the hell, create your own.
Yeah.
Because they're
Well,
constructs.
yeah.
So, like a champion of Purphoros might craft some kind of construct for themselves or do
Mhm.
it for gifts or whatever, but they're kind of cool.
Yeah, I like them. Like, I know we were saying like Purphoros is like, oh, he's a big temper tantrum baby, but like this is pretty cool that he's like created these things as well, you know?
Yes.
He's not
And
all combat. He was just making things. It's
like
cute.
crafting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they are like really well crafted. They're not
Hmm.
just, they don't look, like they
Yeah.
would move roughly or they would,
Hmm.
like they're quite good, and the art is quite interesting for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the bronze sable and the gold forge sentinel. They look pretty cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, now we're gonna move into our last god, Keranos. Keranos is the god of storms and wisdom. He enjoys striking mortals with bolts of inspiration or lightning. He is favored by inventors and sailors or those seeking solutions to intricate problems. He rarely appears to mortals and prefers to appear in a form of an epiphany or a crashing bolt of lightning. When he feels like it, he appears as a stout, bearded human in a purple loincloth with a chain belt. Attached to the belt is a dragon skull. And so let me pull up
Oh
the picture of him.
damn.
Yeah.
We love a good loincloth.
Yes, we do. So this is him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's
Perhaps
really dope.
even like quite Zeus like, I would say.
Yeah. That's who, like, when I,
Especially with
flipping through, that's who I'm like, okay, so this is gonna be the arrogant guy, but as I go through it, he's not really. He's just like, leave me alone. Don't be stupid. So sometimes he also takes the form of a great horned owl with lightning strikes like flashing in its eyes.
Oh.
Yeah. He rewards those who act with forethought and punishes the reckless for their stupidity. Good and evil do not matter to him. And so, if you want to be a champion of Keranos or what have you, good and evil do not matter to him at all. Only action and birthing new ideas into the world is like what he focuses on. That could be a setup for a lot of issues.
Yeah. I'm just thinking here, I'm like, wow, like that group of followers could be diverse.
Yes. Like just wild as hell. um Getting into his attitudes, getting into his relationships. He's not friendly and not really sociable. And he does not like the other gods' company. He keeps all interactions brief and to the point. He does, however, like Thassa, the
Of
god of the
course.
sea. They get along and complement each other's outlook on life. He also gets along with Purphoros, which kind of makes sense. He appreciates Purphoros' need to create. Both gods actually work together to create Epiphany, Keranos' javelin. I think he's holding
Okay.
it. I don't think he's holding it. He might be holding it in the picture. Looks like a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I would say so.
yeah, we can assume that that could be Epiphany, his thing, his
Mhm.
javelin. Getting into his champions. Champions are usually chaotic, often neutral. Some suggested classes: barbarian, bard, cleric, druid, sorcerer, wizard. Champions are usually calm under pressure. They're creative and clever. They challenge the status quo and they love wielding the power of the storm. A way to earn piety is to solve a riddle or puzzle, smiting the unwise and foolish in Keranos' name, helping a polis plan for or adapt to a threat, building or restoring a temple of Keranos. You can lose piety by jeopardizing others through rash or foolish actions, failing to plan appropriately, or giving into fury and destruction. Since he isn't concerned with good or evil himself, an NPC who worships Keranos can easily become a villain in your group's campaign. So we're going to roll on the villain table because it's just so broad that, there's a lot you can do with it since he doesn't really concern himself with good or evil. So his
Yeah.
followers aren't, he can just be, like you said, very diverse. So go ahead and roll a d6.
D6. All right. We have a 2.
A mage servant of Keranos enhances storms as they form, threatening the countryside. That's a little like low key. Okay, here's another one. 4. I'll just read this one. An archmage who controls lightning rises to power, blasting those who oppose her to smithereens. That's what it actually says. So like these are just like a wild group of people just doing things.
Yeah. I
um
can see okay, what did it say? Yeah, it did include sorcerer. Like I can see a wild magic sorcerer being perfect for this because who the
Perfect.
hell knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
And I guess same to be said for Purphoros. I feel like the artificer class would fit really well with Keranos or Purphoros because
Yeah.
it's about like that creating and at like you're also kind of like there's one type of artificer where you can create like a construct or create like a creature that can help you but it's made of metal.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
can't my mind does can't think of the name of it right now. Forgive me. Someone will tell me. But that seems really aligned with like the constructs that we saw Purphoros make and then just
Mm,
that creativity that Keranos wants in his champions. Like
yeah.
Artificer fits really well in there as a
Oh
side part.
yeah. Feel like I feel like you can build like the perfect artificer as like a champion
Yeah.
for him. Like fits perfectly. So Keranos as a campaign villain. He can easily be frustrated by mortals' lack of vision. A party can easily piss him off by making mistakes or being foolish. We're not really gonna roll on that because again, there's like a lot you could do with that. He doesn't like when people make just like the stupidest decision. So like he wants you to be smart, he wants you to think. So yeah. So again, I don't really think he likes mortals like that, which is why he can be that villain, that issue in your campaign. All right. An adventurer is the I don't know how to say that.
Oracular?
Oracular conflux. Oracular conflux. Okay, here we go.
I don't know.
So these are not really places of worship, but more so places of recording knowledge. Here you will find oracles that work here and worship Keranos. Some are even willing to be struck by lightning, risking their lives for a message from him. That's crazy. Obviously the most popular public readings are conducted during thunderstorms. The party can come here to receive a prediction about the future. They can also be called there to act as bodyguards for the oracles who have to deal with the repercussions of those who didn't like their predictions. And so we're going to roll on the adventures table. So Kasi, you're going to roll a D12. Sorry.
A D12. All right. We got a 5.
All right, so recover sacrificial animals from a Cyclops raider. So that's an adventure that can happen here. I'm guessing like this place is just going to be full of people who are like, eager to learn about their future. And like I said, you might run into those who didn't like their predictions and they can just cause a problem up there. Or like, could you imagine just like arriving and just seeing someone struck by lightning? Especially if your players have no clue where they are.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? So,
yeah.
yeah.
Or if they're trying to find it, but they're not sure. It's like, I don't know if this is the right spot. And then they just see someone get struck by lightning. It's like, oh yeah, we're here.
Right. So I like Keranos. I like how he's kind of that god that like you could like of all the gods you can be like a good, be good aligned or like, bad aligned. But like with him, it's really like, what do you want to be? Like, how do you want to live in this world? So I really like the openness with him.
Yeah.
He's very straightforward. I like that.
Yeah. Don't overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might result in you if like you might be seeking out somebody evil, but if you are also a follower of Keranos, then you are seeking someone evil, but to be an ally. So it kind of could be a good way to just take a different spin on some evil creatures in your world that have been there or that you want to introduce as a DM.
Agreed. Let me show you the map. I didn't show it to you, but this is what that place looks like. If you can see it.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yes, just a bunch of circular rooms.
Lots of circular rooms, and of course you got the library and all of that. So a lot you can do here.
Yeah. Fun. Well, and you gotta end up forcing one of your players or your party to make the decision of who will take the lightning strike. Like, you must get this information, and the only way to do it is for someone to stand in the right spot to get struck by lightning. That has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah. This is where Megan's character would be like, I'll do it.
Yeah. And I would be so happy for her to do it. Let her do it.
Yeah. Like, I'll take the
my roles.
Goodness. All right. Well, let's move on to our final monster of the episode.
All right.
We are going to talk about chimeras. So there's a description and stat block of the chimera in the monster manual, where it is described as a large monstrosity created after mortals summoned Demogorgon to the world. And he was very unimpressed with the creatures that he saw. So, being the prince of demons, decided to combine and transform worldly creatures into multi-headed monsters. So the ones that like would come to mind typically have the hindquarters of a goat, the forequarters of a lion, wings of a dragon, and then one head of all of those three creatures. So we have a goat, a lion, and a dragon.
Okay.
That makes up a chimera. So the monster is also a combination of all of the worst traits of each of those creatures. So it's the dragon greed for plunder, the lion's territorial nature and to hunt and kill, and the goat's stubbornness. So they will toy with their prey and they can be convinced to spare your life, but only with the right offering.
Okay.
So this stat block is a CR of 6, and they do have a flying speed and kind of a mix of above and below like ability stats. That's the word, with the highest being in strength and con. So they are like looking for a fight. They're going to be a bit combative. They're not going to back down from that. But you might be able to share, like offer something, but you won't be able to really communicate with them. So kind of fun with that. So the mythic Odysseys of Theros gives us a slightly modified story of the Chimera. It was said to be created by the god Keranos to test Nylea's favorite champion, Renata of Satessa. But when his Chimera was destroyed very easily by this champion, Keranos decided to make a bigger, better, faster, stronger version, combining a bunch of different animals. And unfortunately, none were able to rival Renata. And so he ended up like thrusting these many different chimeras into the wild. And sometimes they can be found near kind of places of large magic, like portals to Nyx. But they also can just live in the wilderness. So it was one of his like epic fails. It did not work out. But nonetheless, we got the ability to create chimeras. So this book, we have actual direction on constructing your own chimera if you want, and you can roll for it. So there's like body composition, head, breath weapon, and tail attacks. And so you can roll and create your own chimera. Yeah, which is kind of fun. So the stats for this one in the book are very similar to the one that's found in the monster manual, with the addition of spell turning, which we talked about earlier. So this is where the chimera can potentially flip a spell attack on it back to the caster. And so that boosts it up just a little bit more to a CR of 7, where the chimera in the monster manual is a CR of 6. So if you choose to roll your chimera, you also get to then adjust the attack options based on the creatures you have picked. So every chimera will have a claw attack, but then you could potentially have a tail attack or a breath weapon if there's like a dragon involved, and some kind of head attack, whether it's like a beak or it's, something else. And there is some art in the book that is interesting. From what I can tell, it would be a lion crossed with a horse, crossed with an eagle, but then there are also like ram-like horns on it, even though there's not really a ram head. And then it looks like it has a spiky kind of tail. So, I don't really know.
Like what was going on here?
Yeah, it looks interesting. I don't want to say it had AI influence in its creation, but some of the horns look a little sus, but I digress. It is a unique option that I think makes a lot of sense, especially with the love of creation and it being connected to Keranos in that way. And if you really liked the Chimera in the monster manual, well, creativity is at your fingertips with this book here. Yeah, that is the Chimera.
Yeah, that's it has a lot going on. I like how you can build your own. Like the book gives you a chance to do that. And it's like it made me think like, Keranos, this is unlike you. Like to like, I wouldn't expect for him to like make something like this or, and fail at it. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's what's funny is it's
Hmm.
like, I will make something that can beat your champion. Then it's like, shit.
Yeah. Yep. So let me try again.
Yeah. I feel like it could have been him and Purphoros, with Purphoros is like, no, it needs to be better, and throws
Yeah.
it away. It's got that mentality around it. It's like
Hmm.
constantly trying to make it like the right combination, but
Hmm.
it's kind of that endless search.
Yeah. Yep. And they're just tossing these things into like the wild.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So I don't know which lore story I like better. I think, well, obviously, if you're playing in like on Theros, you're going to use the relevant backstory. But the other one about Demogorgon is also kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode in our monthly discussion on Theros. Don't forget to check out some of the other series on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and other podcast apps, and become one of our patrons to get access to bonus episodes, book reviews, discussions on homebrew details, and the It's a Mimic campaign builder.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Touring the Multiverse on the It's a Mimic channels. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, itsamimic.com, a store with some It's a Mimic merch, and a Patreon. But one of the best things you can do is share, like, subscribe, comment, leave reviews, and make posts about It's a Mimic and this series. Engagements like that help us create more content for you to consume. But even if you don't, I want to say thanks for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.
I feel like that was a momentous episode, the end of
Yeah.
the end of the mythic monsters, and then like pretty hefty gods.
Yeah, these were pretty hefty. Let me see. It was Purphoros, yeah, Thassa, and then
Yeah.
Keranos.
There is also a legend, in fact, of a magical horn, the horn of oh no, I think that auto corrected wrong. Oof.